welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome to today's episode.
Hello, everybody.
So, Jill, where in the world are we today?
We're in the USA.
Okie dokie. And the title?
A Mother's Confession.
Alright, shall we just dive in?
Yes, let's. So, Susan Lee Vaughn was born on the 26th of September 1971 in Union, South Carolina, to parents Linda and Harry. Sorry. And she had two older half-brothers from her mum. Unfortunately, family life wasn't great. Her mum and dad argued a lot and it would scare the kids. And her older brother tried to hang himself.
Oh, God, that's extreme.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And luckily he was unsuccessful, but he was put into psychiatric care like several times while Susan was little. So, she had to witness him in and out of psychiatric care.
Okay.
Her mum filed for divorce and her dad shot himself and died.
Oh my God, that's horrific.
When Susan was only 6. So of course this was a massive tragedy for the family, and Susan really struggled with losing her dad.
I'm not surprised.
And she even tried to follow suit and take her own life when she was only 13.
Sorry.
Her mum Linda met and married a guy called Beverly Russell, Bev for short. Mm-hmm. He was a divorced father of 3. He was a stockbroker and a member of both South Carolina's Republican community and the Christian coalition. So you'd think that things were looking up. Mm-hmm. Because since Harry had taken his own life, mm-hmm. Linda and the children had struggled for money.
Right.
And Bev, he earned good money and they moved into his nice big house. And although he couldn't replace her dad, Susan had a new father figure in her life. So you'd think, things are looking up.
Oh, you'd hope so, yeah.
And she started doing better at school, and she had some good friends, and she was described as cheerful and friendly. But unfortunately, at home, Bev started sexually abusing Susan. At 16, she told her high school guidance counsellor and her mum, Linda, about what Bev was doing to her. So Linda confronted Bev, and he moved out of the house, and he promised that he wouldn't do it again, and the 3 of them went to therapy sessions, like family counselling kind of thing.
Okay.
And then he soon moved back into the house, and shockingly, the family blamed both Bev and Susan for what went on.
Really?
Yeah, she was 16.
Oh,
come on.
I mean...
He was abusing her.
I don't see how she could get the blame, really.
No. Linda... Sorry. Yeah, the family blamed both Bev and Susan for what went on, and Linda told Susan that reporting it to the counsellor and getting social service involved, that just made matters worse.
Oh, right, yeah, okay then.
So that, supportive mother,
not very.
So Bev didn't even stop the abuse after being found out.
Right.
He just carried on and Susan reported him again the following year. Even though a report was made by social services, there were never any charges brought against Bev.
Really?
And it's thought that it was Linda that kind of said, persuaded her not to.
Right, okay.
But no, you're her mum. You should have been pressing the charges.
Well, exactly, 100%.
So Susan found herself a job in a Winn-Dixie supermarket. She started dating a co-worker and then started having an affair with a married co-worker at the same time.
Oh, God.
She got pregnant and she had an abortion, and I'm not sure which guy was the father. I don't know if she knew, I don't know. The married guy eventually broke it off with her because he found out that she was dating the other guy, which, excuse me, you've got a wife.
Well,
so you've got a bit of cheek.
Yeah, you've definitely got a bit of a cheek.
And she was devastated, and she tried to take her own life again by taking an overdose of aspirin, but she was unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. She would often date several men at the same time, and when they broke up, she would become really depressed and had taken pills before. Doctors diagnosed her with an adjustment disorder and blamed her behaviour on stress, and she started having therapy. So the following year, she told her psychiatrist that the relationship with her stepfather had actually been consensual. And the reason she did it was because she wasn't happy that her mum was receiving male attention.
Okay.
Whether, I don't know if that's true, if it was, but at the end of the day, she's only 16, and the legal age is 18, isn't it, for consent in America, I think.
Is it? I don't know.
Is it not?
Well, no, it's 16 here, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's 18 in America, or most places in America. God's sake, you go to America, do you not know these things?
Well, I don't need to think about that in America, really, do I?
I
know that the drinking age is 21.
Yeah, they've always been older than
Right,
us,
okay.
because we were like, even like with smoking, we were 16 and they were 18.
Although we are 18 for smoking now.
No, but I'm talking like when I was in America.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh no, I can't go and buy, because I wasn't 18. And I was like, oh no, I can't go buy cigarettes. But I just went to the machine in the hotel lobby and got them from there instead of having to go to a shop.
Yeah, smart thinking.
Yeah, so Susan then started dating David Smith. He worked at the Winn-Dixie as well. He was a stocker and she was a cashier, and they had started chatting and discovered that they had similar interests, like going to amusement parks, and they liked the same kind of music. They got married on the 15th of March 1991, which was actually so weird because that's the day that I was researching this case. When I was actually writing that, I was like, oh, it's the 15th of March today.
There you go.
Susan was 19 and David was 20 when they got married, and Susan was 2 months pregnant with his child.
Right.
just in case you were wondering.
Yes, okay.
That was a possibility.
Well, that's just true. Her record of going through these men. Yeah.
So on the 10th of October 1991, they had a son called Michael Daniel Smith. But unfortunately, the marriage wasn't going very well. They both had affairs, and also David's 22-year-old brother died from complications of Crohn's disease.
Right.
And his dad attempted suicide in that first year of their marriage as well.
God,
so
that's
obviously,
so much trauma.
I know. So that would have obviously been an added stress to the marriage as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So they broke up for a while, but then they got back together. They bought a new house, and Susan got pregnant again, and they had another son called Alexander Tyler Smith on the 5th of August 1993. But 3 weeks later, they split up again, and David moved in with his great-grandma. So Susan got a new job because David was now the manager at the Winn-Dixie.
Right.
So she didn't want to have him as her boss, which is totally understandable.
Yeah, get that.
She started work at a place called Conso Products, where she was the executive secretary to J. Carey Finlay, who was the president of the company. She was also doing a part-time college course at the University of South Carolina. And this is, so at the Conso Products, this is where she met her boss's son, Tom Finlay. He was a 27-year-old, and he was the town's most eligible bachelor.
All right.
He worked there as well at the Conso Products, and he was the head of the graphic arts department. So they got to know each other quite well. As a few of the co-workers would like go to the pub and socialise, and they started dating. So by mid-1994, Susan filed for divorce, but David wanted to get back together with Susan, so she was like, oh, right, okay, we'll give it another shot. So so she'd finished with Tom. They tried again, but as usual, it didn't work out, and they finished it for good. They're like, right, that's it, we're done now. We've tried.
Yep.
No, that's it. So she stayed in the marital home, and he moved to an apartment. So, I think it was just like a 2-bedroom apartment for him and the kids. And they co-parented the kids with no problems. So once her and David were finally over, Susan started dating Tom Finlay again. His family were well-to-do, had lots of money, and he was a catch. So she was doing well for herself, and she thought it was getting serious. Tom, however, wasn't feeling the same way.
Okay.
He liked her, but for him, it was just a casual thing. And when he realised that she was falling for him and was expecting more than he could give, then he decided to end things.
Yeah.
Which was the right thing to do. Yeah,
that is the right thing to do. Yeah, 100%.
so he wrote her a letter. This was just a few days before her divorce was finalised. So I'm sure she must have been gutted, because she'll have known that, because she knew that she would have known that her divorce was just about finalised. So she's maybe thinking, great, I'll be free.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get, maybe a proposal might be coming, like we're getting serious, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sure she was actually gutted with this letter. So I'm going to read you the letter,
Right, okay.
but be warned, he goes on a bit.
Oh, okay. Is that a long letter?
Well, I don't know, it seemed like it when I was typing it anyway. And as I said, it kind of goes on a bit, but just bear with me, because it is important.
Okay. Well, that's fine. We'll listen.
You've got no choice. The listeners can switch off if they want, or fast forward.
Yeah,
But
it's part of the story.
It is. It's part of it.
So you've got to tell it.
That's right. So, dear Susan, I hope you don't mind, but I think clearer when I am typing. So this letter is being written on my computer.
Oh, right. So
She probably realised that when she
I
started
was just thinking,
typing.
like, well, where else is it written? I mean, it's probably quite obvious if it's like typed up.
Right, okay.
Sorry. I mean, it's just obvious.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, we're both the same, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like, duh. Right.
You need to compose yourself.
Okay. This is a difficult letter for me to write because I know how much you think of me. And I want you to know that I'm flattered that you have such a high opinion of me. Susan, I value our friendship very much. You're one of the few people on earth that I feel I could tell anything. You are intelligent, beautiful, sensitive, understanding, and possess many other qualities that I and many men appreciate. You will, without a doubt, make some lucky man a great wife, but unfortunately it won't be me. When I look at you, you've got like a smirk on your face.
Sorry. Well, I'm just thinking, like, in my head I'm thinking...
You're probably thinking the same as me.
Well, I don't know, like, how many nice things you need to say before you need to be horrible here? I mean,
well, that wasn't what I was thinking. I was thinking that this guy just seems like he's got a bit of a big head. It's like, oh, I know you really like me.
Yeah.
He's sort of reveling in the fact that that she likes him, and
yeah, true.
I don't know. Even though you think we have so much in common, we are vastly different. We have been raised in two totally different environments and therefore think totally different. That's not to say that I was raised better than you or vice versa. It just means that we come from two different backgrounds.
Oh, right.
When I started dating Laura, no idea who Laura is.
Not me. It's not me. It's definitely not me.
No, you're definitely not you because I think you were probably a bit too little. You're a bit too young.
A bit too young.
When I started dating Laura, I knew her backgrounds were going to be a problem. Right before I graduated from Auburn University in 1990, I'm not quite sure if this is... Oh, anyway, I don't know, I'm getting a bit confused with myself. I haven't put the punctuation in right here, so... I broke up with a girl, Alison, that I had been dating for over 2 years. I loved Alison. I don't know who Alison is either, just random ex.
Just in a letter.
I broke up with a girl called Alison that I'd been dating for over 2 years. I loved Alison very much and we were very compatible. Unfortunately, we wanted different things out of life. She wanted to get married and have children before the age of 28 and I did not. Like, see what I mean about going on? Like, you don't need to be writing about your exes in a breakup letter.
Exactly. I mean, it's a bit harsh. Like, I mean, I'm sure that she really wants to know about all your exes and why you didn't, like, work out in a relationship with those. I mean, it's not really relevant, is it?
I know, it would have been just so much easier to say, Susan, I'm sorry to tell you, I don't want to be with you anymore. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. I mean, it's nice to say a few nice things at least. Come on, didn't need to be as blunt as that. But...
Thank you for your time. She spent time with them in the pub and doing whatever.
It's almost like it was a fucking chore or a work meeting or something.
Anyway, this conflict spurred our breakup, but we have remained friends throughout the years. After Alison, I was very hurt. I decided not to...
Who cares? Who cares if you were hurt? You're fucking hurting this poor woman that was... Oh,
that's what I mean. He's making it all about himself, isn't he? Yeah.
This letter is totally about him. Yeah.
That's why I had to include it all, because I just thought... Because when I read it, and I thought I could cut bits out of that, but I just thought, no.
Nah, it needs to be all in there.
So after Alison, I was very hurt. I decided not to fall for anyone again until I was ready to make a long commitment. For my first 2 years in union, I dated very little. In fact, I can count the number of dates I had on one hand, but then Laura came along. We met at Console and I fell for her like a ton of bricks. I mean,
who cares? This woman doesn't care.
Things were great at first and remained good for a long time, but I knew deep in my heart she was not the one for me.
Very good.
People tell me that when you find the person that you will want to spend the rest of your life with, you will know it. Well, even though I fell in love with Laura, I had my doubts about a long and lasting commitment, but I never said anything, and I eventually hurt her very, very deeply. I won't do that again. Susan, I could really fall for you. You have so many endearing qualities about you, and I think you're a terrific person. But like I've told you before, there are some things about you that aren't suited for me, and yes, I'm speaking about your children. I'm sure that your kids are good kids, but it really wouldn't matter how good they may be. The fact is, I just don't want children. These feelings may change one day, but I doubt it. With all the crazy mixed up things that take place in the world today, I just don't have the desire to bring another life into it. And I don't want to be responsible for anyone else's children either. But I'm very thankful that there are people like you who are not so selfish as I am and don't mind bearing the responsibility of children. So he's thanking her for having kids.
Oh my god, you just sound... Do you know what, Susan? You're better off with him. I swear to God. This is horrendous.
Yeah, we're not finished yet. And he has some good advice for her in a minute as well.
What does he?
If everyone thought the way that I do, our species would eventually become extinct. See what I mean about going on a bit?
Aye.
The dog's going to fall off your leg in a minute.
I think she wants to fall off my leg.
But our differences go far beyond the children issue. We are just two totally different people, and eventually those differences would cause us to break up. Because I know myself so well, I am sure of this. But don't be discouraged. There is someone out there for you, and that is probably someone that you not know at this time, or that you may know, but you never expect. Either way, before you settle down with anyone again, there's something you need to do. Susan, because you got pregnant and married at such an early age, you missed out on so much of your youth.
Oh my God.
I mean, one minute you were a kid and the next minute you were having kids. Because I come from a place where everyone has the desire and the money to go to college, having the responsibility of children at such a young age is beyond my comprehension. Like, none of your business when she had kids.
Exactly. Totally none of your business.
Anyhow, my advice to you is to wait. And be very choosy about your next relationship. I could see this may be a bit difficult for you because you were a bit boy crazy.
What the...
She's insulting her now.
God.
But as the proverb states, good things come to those who wait. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go out and have a good time.
Well, I'm not being funny, but you can't have a say in anything that I do if you're breaking up with me, so do one. I'll do what I want.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't go out and have a good time. In fact, I think you should do just that. Have a good time and capture some of that youth you missed out on. But just don't get seriously involved with anyone until you've done the things in life that you want to do first, and then the rest will fall in place. Susan, I'm not mad at you about what happened this weekend. Actually, I'm very thankful. As I told you, I was starting to let my heart warm up to the idea of us going out as more than just friends. But seeing you kiss another man... put things back into perspective. So she's hoping for a long-term relationship with him, but she's snogging somebody else.
So basically, if she hadn't done that, he would have considered it then. Is that what he's saying?
I don't have no idea what he's saying. I've lost track by now. I remember how I hurt Laura. I mean, Laura keeps coming up.
Oh, you know, us Laura's, you know what I mean? We're not forgettable. We're keep people's minds.
I remember how I hurt Laura, and I won't let that happen again, and therefore I can't let myself get close to you. We will always be friends, but our relationship will never go beyond that of friendship. And as for your relationship with B. Brown, whoever that is, of course you have to make your own decisions in life, but remember, you have to live with the consequences also. Everyone is held accountable for their actions, and I would hate for people to perceive you as an unreputable person. If you want to catch a nice guy like me one day, you have to act like a nice girl. And you know nice girls don't sleep with married men. So this B. Brown's married. Mm-hmm. Besides, I want you to feel good about yourself. And I'm afraid that if you sleep with B. Brown, or any other married man for that matter, you will lose your self-respect. She's already been with married men. Mm-hmm. I know I did when we were messing around earlier this year. So please think about your actions before you do anything you will regret. I care for you, but I also care for Susan Brown. So that must be the guy's wife.
Oh, okay.
And I would hate to see anyone get hurt. Susan may say that she won't care her husband had an affair, but you and I know that's not true. Anyhow, as I've already told you, you're a very special person, and don't let anyone tell you or make you feel any different. And I'm like, well, you're telling her to be different, basically.
I don't know. I wonder if she actually read the whole letter.
She just got bored by now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, scrunch up and was like, screw you.
I see so much potential in you, but only you can make it happen. Don't settle for a mediocre life. Go for it all and only settle for the best. I do. I haven't told you this, but I am extremely proud of you for going to school. I am a firm believer in higher education, and once you obtain a degree from college, there is no stopping you. And don't let these idiot boys from Union make you feel like you're not capable or slow you down. After you graduate, you'll be able to go anywhere you want in this world, and if you ever want to get a good job in Charlotte, my father is the right person to know. He and Connie know everyone who is anyone in the business in Charlotte. So I think he's telling her to move. because they live in Union, so Charlotte's obviously not, it's a different place. And if I can ever help you with anything, don't hesitate to ask. Well, this letter must come to an end.
Oh, thank God.
It's 11:50 p.m. Oh, we haven't finished yet. He says it must come to an end, but he's going to ramble on about Christmas in a minute.
I bet you were like, oh my God, do I have to type all of this?
I was getting bored by the end of it. Like, I was like, I'm committed now. I need to keep going.
Do it.
Yeah, so it's 11:50 p.m. and I'm getting very sleepy, but I wanted to write you this letter because you are the one who is always making an effort for me, and I wanted to return the friendship. I've appreciated it when you've dropped me little nice notes or cards or the present at Christmas. Sorry. And it's about time that I start putting a little effort into our friendship. Which reminds me, I thought long and hard about getting you something for your birthday, but I decided not to. Because I wasn't sure what you might think, and I was thinking, did you really have to tell her you were thinking about getting something, and then she just done it, then you didn't?
I know, that's a bit harsh, like. Jesus, this guy.
Now, I'm sorry I didn't get you anything. But you can expect something from me at Christmas. But do not buy me anything for Christmas. All I want from you is a nice sweet card.
Oh, right, yeah, great.
I'll cherish that more than any store present. Again, you'll always have my friendship, and your friendship is one that I will always look upon for sincere affection. Tom.
That's like...
What the hell was that?
I have absolutely no idea. I mean...
There was, as I said before, dear Susan, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Yeah, thanks for the good times or something. Like,
I mean, he could have said, you have kids, I don't want kids, because that's to me, that's a good enough reason for breaking up with somebody, you know.
Fair enough.
You know, if you don't want kids, that's fair enough.
But he just spent too much time almost patronising her.
Exactly, that's exactly what I thought.
Patronising.
Very patronising, and he seemed to think an awful lot of himself, because it's like, oh, you need to find a nice guy like me. And I'm like, well, she did try to find a nice guy like you, but you've just dumped her, so and you're not very nice about it.
Well, no, but you're trying to make it look like you're being nice.
But it wasn't.
You weren't, because you were too busy talking about you, all your ex-bloody girlfriends.
Calling her out for telling her not to sleep with married men, and then saying...
Criticising her life by having kids young. I mean, yeah. No.
So she's better off without him, but her decisions after this letter... not good, so this is why I had to include it.
Yes.
So Susan, of course, wasn't very happy when she received this letter, and she didn't want to let Tom go. She went to his house and tried to get sympathy by telling him that she was abused by her stepdad, but then tried to make him jealous by telling him that she was still sleeping with her stepdad. But this just made Tom even more determined that he didn't want to be with her, because he was like, you're choosing to sleep with your mum's husband. So...
yeah,
no.
That's not painting yourself in a good light.
No.
I mean, I know that obviously there's been abuse there, but then you're openly saying that you're still sleeping with them. I mean... So, I mean, whether she was or not, I'm not quite sure, but she was sleeping with... Yeah, well, she said she was anyway. So she said she was sleeping with 3 men. She was sleeping with her stepdad, Tom, and her ex-husband, David. She was still sleeping with him as well. Like, how does she find the time for all that? It's just like a lot of effort. I mean...
and having 2 kids and a job.
Well, exactly. Like, you know... One is more than enough, and I mean, 3 people to have to do that with, and then look after your kids and have a life at the same time, that's an awful lot.
Yeah, I can't even do it. I'm just too lazy for it.
Well, exactly, that's what I was thinking. I'd rather, like, be sitting watching Daily.
I'd rather have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
That's what my mother-in-law used to always say that. If you ever brought up the mention of sex, she'd be, oh no, I'd rather have a cup of tea. That's what she always say.
What do you know what I mean? Like, I think, you know, if you're with you have a partner, then that's fine, and, you know, you obviously do it when you do it. I mean, but 3 different people, like, you think that's going to be constant? Because...
I can imagine the amount of showers you'd have to have. Because you'd
Well,
have to keep...
Assuming there were showers involved, you know. Yeah, I just think that's just a...
Yeah, so I'm not surprised that Tom wasn't interested. I mean, I think the main thing was that he didn't want to have kids. He didn't want to take responsibility for somebody else's
think
kids.
His reasons were necessarily bad, but I don't think he had to elaborate on all those different points. Like, they were unnecessary.
No, of course not.
Like, his reasons for not wanting to be with her were fair enough. You know, he didn't want kids, you know, whatever. That's totally fine. Like, that's acceptable, obviously, because that's fine. That's a good enough reason, but yeah, he kind of just went a bit too
No, he went overboard.
Yeah,
but,
overboard with it.
I mean, that was basically his reason. But I could see why he wasn't interested if he knew that she was all... well, she told him that she was still sleeping with her stepdad. I don't know if she told him that she was still sleeping with her ex.
That's enough of a turn off for me.
Yeah. So she became deeply depressed and she was full of anxiety, and when she was alone she began drinking, and it became so bad that she was like taking days off so that she could off work so that she could drink.
Oh God.
So on Tuesday the 25th of October 1994, she got up, had breakfast with her two sons, and then took them to daycare. So Michael was 3 and Alex was 14 months old.
Christ.
So she then went to work, and at lunchtime she went to a restaurant to eat with some co-workers, Tom included. And she was unusually quiet while everyone else was like chatting and laughing. And when she went back to work, she asked her supervisor, Sandy, if she could leave work early that day. Mm-hmm. Sandy was like, well, what's wrong? Like, are you okay? And she said that she was upset because she was in love with Tom Finlay, but he didn't love her, and that they could never be together because he didn't want children. So Sandy was like, yeah, go home, take the rest of the day off, whatever. At 2:30 that afternoon, she called Tom and asked him to meet her outside work because she needed to talk. So she never actually went home. She told Tom that her ex, David, was threatening to expose her sexual relationship with her stepdad in the divorce proceedings, so she was upset. Right. So she was obviously just trying to get some sympathy from Tom.
Or was it just an excuse for him to meet up with her?
Well, yeah, like, I think that's it. I think she wanted to see her, she wanted to speak to her, she wanted sympathy, so maybe she's just thinking, oh, you'll feel sorry for me and want to be with me. But Tom, again, told her, we'll still be friends, I'm here for you, we're still friends. Didn't want a relationship with you. So then she obviously got angry and told him that she'd slept with his dad. Because remember, his dad is her boss.
Yeah.
I don't think that was true. I think that was her. She was just being spiteful, just wanting to piss him off. So, but she wasn't going the right way about wanting to get him back.
No, definitely not. That's not what you turn around and say to somebody that you want back, that you're sleeping or have slept with somebody else.
Well, his dad.
Ah, well, yeah, that's wrong, especially his dad, yeah.
So a couple hours later, because they'd obviously, he probably was like, well, fuck you, and stormed off. I don't know what happened there, but they parted ways. A couple hours later, she went to his office and was trying to give him back a jumper of his that she'd borrowed.
Right.
So it sounds like she was just using any excuse to, like, keep finding him and talking to him. But he was like, no, it's alright, just keep it. I need my jumper back, just go away.
Like, leave me alone.
Yeah. Susan then went to pick up her sons from daycare. Then, as she was driving home, she passed a place called Hickory Nut. So I don't know what kind of place that is, because I did look it up and couldn't find it. Maybe it's a restaurant or something, or a bar or something like that. Because I did look up Hickory Nuts, and it was actually telling me what hickory nuts are, and I'm like, yeah, they're nuts. Like, I want to know if it was a place, but maybe because we don't live in America, then...
Maybe, I don't know.
It's a place.
She was not a shop selling hickory nuts.
I don't know, but one of her co-workers was was in her car in the car park of this place.
Oh, okay.
So Sue was sitting in the car park.
She
saw
Susan.
Sue. I don't know. And we've already had a Susan, the guy who Susan Brown.
Aye.
There may be another. No, is it? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, so she was passing by, saw her co-worker, so she's like, she pulled in to go and speak to her. So she told her that she had insulted Tom by telling him that she slept with his dad, and she said that she hadn't. So she said that she'd made it up just to see his reaction. So she asked Sue if she would go back to work with her, so that Sue could sit in the car with the kids, because she didn't want to leave the kids in the car by themselves, and she could go and speak to Tom and apologise to him. Yeah. So it was 5:30 now, and so Sue said, "Yeah, come on then." So Susan went into Tom's office. He wasn't happy to see her and just told her to get out, which I'm not surprised at by this point.
Yeah, true.
She went back to the car and told Sue that she was so upset that she might just end it.
Right.
I don't know what Sue's reaction was to that, because she drove Sue back to the Hickory Nuts car park, dropped her off. Cheerio. And Susan
didn't take her seriously then.
Obviously not. Or she's maybe talked her around, and Susan maybe like, no, it's fine, I'm alright, you know.
Yeah, maybe.
So she dropped Sue off, and then Susan went home with Michael and Alex. So Susan knew that Sue was having dinner with friends that evening, one of them being Tom. So Susan actually called the restaurant and said, can I speak to my pal Sue?
Right.
While Sue is having an evening out, you know, she's out with her friends, and the people who, I don't know, a waitress or whoever came over and said, there's a phone for you.
Like, it's never been a thing, and like, I've never known that to be a thing in the UK where like you're out for a meal and somebody phones up the restaurant and talks to you. But I always remember, was it Mrs. Doubtfire, the film? And that happened when he got a phone call.
Yeah.
Or pretended to get a phone call. I can't remember. Was it a pretend phone call? I can't remember. But I just thought, and then I've seen it in like definitely films and programs where people get calls at restaurants, and I'm like, that's just never been a thing here.
That's here.
I've never.
People used to phone the pub and tell their husbands to go home.
That I've heard of, but not like a restaurant. It just
I can
a
remember.
random thing to do.
I can remember being in the pub and there was a guy who used to sit at the end of the bar every day, and his wife would phone and say, "Can you tell Tam that's his dinner ready?" So. And one day he never went home, so his wife actually brought his dinner in and chucked it at him, and he says, "Oh, cheers," sat there at the end of the bar. Anyway, but I'm like, yeah, but I can understand you getting a phone call if it was an emergency. Like, if you're out having your dinner and somebody, like your babysitter's like, "Oh my God, one of your children's choking on something," I could understand them phoning the restaurant for an emergency, but not for a chat.
No.
So this is what she phoned her for. She phoned her for a chat to ask if Tom had said anything about her.
Because you know, like, waited till the next game day or something.
And Sue, I said, no, like, he hadn't mentioned you. We haven't even, your name hasn't came up. Nobody's talked about you. Like, you're not that relevant, mate.
No.
You know?
Yeah, like, you're not that important.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Paranoia there.
So, I just thought that was a bit much. Like, phoning the restaurant and saying, oh, and it's so childish as well, really. Like, oh, so-and-so talked about me.
Clearly paranoid and hoping that. Either, well, I don't know, was she hoping that he was, or he was, it wasn't.
I think he hoped that he was, because she wanted him to be talking about her, saying that he wanted to be with her, or whatever. So, right, so she then dressed Michael and Alex, as I'm assuming they must have been ready for bed, because it was 8 p.m. by now. 3-year-old, 14-month-old.
You'd think so.
Why are you getting them dressed and taking them out? So she put them in the car, and she said she started driving around Union, and she later said that she'd never felt so sad and lonely in her whole life. So, just after 9 p.m, 911 received a call. The guy told the guy told the operator that a lady had ran up to the door and told him that she had stopped at a red light in her car, and some guy had jumped in and drove off with her 2 kids in it.
Okay.
So the guy that had called 911 was Rick McLeod. So his mum Shirley had been just chilling out reading the paper in her living room, and she'd heard this noise, crying coming from the porch. So she'd opened the door, and there was Susan Smith, crying hysterically. And she said, quote, "Please help me, he's got my kids and he's got my car." So Shirley took Susan inside and told her son to call the police, while Susan told her that a black man had her kids and car.
Right.
So the police came out to the house, which was a quarter of a mile away from John D. Long Lake, and when Susan calmed down, she told them what had happened. So she said she was just driving around and she had stopped at a red light at Monarch Mills, and a black man jumped into her car and told her to drive.
Okay.
She asked him why he was doing this. He told her to shut up and drive or he would kill her. So he told her to drive northwest of Union for about 4 miles, and then when they got to the sign for the lake, he told her to get out. She asked why she couldn't have her kids, and he said he didn't have time. She said he pushed her out while pointing a gun at her.
Right.
So when he had got her out, he said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt your kids," and drove away while her sons were crying out for her. She then ran until she saw a house, which was the McLeods. So after Rick had called the police, Susan asked to use the toilet and the phone. She called her mum, but she couldn't get a hold of her, so she called her stepdad and then her ex-husband David, and by the time she phoned him, the police were already at the McLeod's house and beginning the search, so they must have been that quick, because she only went for a pee, unless she had a long shit. But she went to the toilet first and then phoned.
Right, okay.
So David raced to the McLeod's house. He saw Susan standing at the door, and she just kind of collapsed into his arms, and he actually had to pick her up and carry her to the couch. He said that she was distraught, very visibly upset, and family rallied around her, but by midnight the police had suggested go somewhere else because the McLeods didn't know these people from Adam.
Well,
so
it wasn't.
it wasn't very fair having all these strangers, hanging around their house.
Yeah.
So Susan said they should go to her mum and stepdad's house. So they all left in their different vehicles, and Susan went with David in his car, and she said something very strange. She told David that Tom Finlay might come and see her, so she was just telling him because she didn't want David to get angry.
Right, okay. Bit of a random thing.
And David was like, what the fuck? She was more bothered that he would become upset at her boyfriend or whatever he was coming to visit than the fact that their sons were missing.
Yeah.
Like,
Get priorities right.
red flag. So searches were organised to go to the lake because that, as I said, they were just a quarter of a mile away from the lake. Divers were sent down to look, and helicopters with heat sensors flew over the lake. But the boys, neither the boys or the car were, they were nowhere to be seen. And for 9 days, Susan and David were headline news all over across America, pleading with the public for any information to find their sons.
Right.
So Susan had met with the police sketch artist, and they came up with a sketch of a black man, about 40. He was wearing a dark knit cap, jeans and a plaid jacket. Friends and family visited Susan and David at her mum's house, and she hoped that Tom would come.
Like, seriously, what does she think that because her sons are missing, he's going to give her sympathy and want to come and make sure she's alright? Is that
pretty much, yeah.
That's what it seems like.
And he did call her to express his sympathies, but she turned the conversation away from her sons to their relationship. And he was like, no, I'm not talking about us. Like, concentrate on your sons. Like, not...
Yeah, exactly.
Not me or our relationship, no. And he never called back. Some of her co-workers visited, and she asked her friend Sue if Tom was coming, but of course he never went to see her, which I'm not surprised at. But like, get a grip, woman.
Yeah, like your sons are the most important thing right now. Nothing else matters.
Yeah. So Susan was questioned every day, and her and David were asked to do a polygraph test. So David showed that he knew nothing about his son's disappearance, but Susan's was inconclusive, and her greatest level of deception was when she was asked if she knew where her sons were. So Susan was given a polygraph every time she was interviewed after that, because the police were having doubts about her story because there were so many inconsistencies. She said things like she'd been to Walmart, but like nobody remembered seeing her there. So she changed her story to like, oh, I never went into Walmart. I went into the car park.
Right.
And then she was like, well, actually, no, I never went to Walmart at all. I was just driving around, but I didn't want to say that because it looked suspicious. And she also said that her oldest son, Michael, the 3-year-old, had wanted to go and visit Susan's best friend, fiance, Mitchell Sinclair. Now, I'm assuming this Mitchell must have been friends. For her to think that this would be believable. Yeah. Maybe he looked at him as like maybe an uncle or something like that. If it's her best friend and
maybe.
I don't know.
Still.
But I don't know why he would want to go and see him at 8 o'clock at night. But
exactly.
Okay.
Or why she would agree to take them and the kids should be, as you said, at least they were in their pajamas originally because she got them dressed, and they should be either in bed or getting down ready to settle down for bed.
Yeah. So they'd said that Michael had wanted to go and visit Mitchell Sinclair, and that's why she had stopped at the red light on the Monarch intersection, because that was on the way to his house. That's that's why she was where she was. But she'd said that she saw no other cars when she stopped. So investigators spoke to Mitchell, and he said he wasn't expecting her, and he wasn't in at that time anyway. But what really made them suspicious was that the traffic lights on the Monarch intersection is always on green. It's like permanently on green unless a car on the other side triggers the signal to change.
Right, okay.
But she had said there were no other cars on the road, so the light wouldn't have been red.
Aye, so it should have been green.
Yeah, so if the light hadn't been red, she wouldn't have stopped, and there wouldn't be a man jumping into her car. So they were like, we see you, we hear you.
Yes, you're starting to unravel yourself here.
So the police learned about Susan's relationships, and they found out that Tom had split up with her because she had kids. So an officer asked Susan, quote, "Did this fact play any role or have any bearing on the disappearance of your children?" And Susan replied, quote, "No man would make me hurt my children. They were my life." the officer picked up straight away that she had replied to her children in the past tense. She said the children were my life. Mm-hmm. She didn't say the children are my life, they were. Uh-huh. So the officer there was like,
there's another red flag.
So on the 3rd of November, Susan was worn down by all the interrogations. The police knew that she had something to do with the boys' disappearances, and she was in church talking to the sheriff, and he confronted her about the carjacking, and he said to her, I know it's a lie, just come clean. So they prayed together, and then he said, Susan, it's time. So she dropped her head and she said, I'm so ashamed. And she asked the sheriff for his gun so that she could shoot herself. He asked why she would do that, and she said, quote, you don't understand, my children are not all right, end quote. She then confessed. She told him that night she had wanted to commit suicide. That's all she could think about. So she decided to go to her mum's house for comfort. So not to commit suicide. But then she was like, she realised that she was so far gone that even her mum couldn't help her. Like, her mum wouldn't be able to talk her out of it.
Yeah.
So she decided that the boys would be better off with her and God than be left alone without her.
Right. So she intended to kill them and her.
Yeah.
But
so she said that she drove to the lake and she put the car in neutral and she let it roll down the boat ramp. But then she pulled on the parking brake and stopped the car. Mm-hmm. She did it 3 times before she got out of the car, and in her words, she was so overcome with grief, loneliness and pain, she reached into the car and released the parking brake, sending the car into the lake. So she basically bottled it to killing herself, but yet she managed to do it to her children.
Well, but yeah, they obviously didn't do the search wasn't...
Well, just a bit, yeah. So another search of the lake started because when they had searched before, they had been under the impression that the car would have been driven at speed into the water. So they actually didn't search nearer to the shore because obviously if the car had rolled into it, it wouldn't have went that far. Yeah. So they actually had searched that well.
Right, yeah. It wasn't as thorough as it could have been.
Yeah. And I don't mean to diss them or anything, but that's just the facts. Yeah. 6 minutes into the dive, so the diver had went down first and not seen anything. Then the diver went down again, and 6 minutes into his second dive, he saw the upside down car in approximately 18 feet of water. The diver saw that the windows were all up and all the doors were closed. He said that he saw a small hand against the window.
Oh no.
And I'm assuming that must have been Michael's, the 3-year-old, because he would have had longer arms, to get to the window. Yeah. The boys were in car seats hanging upside down, one on either side of the car.
Oh, that's awful.
When the car had been pulled out and the boys' bodies sent to the medical centre, autopsies were carried out and they confirmed that both the little boys had been alive when their mum had sent the car into the lake and they had drowned as the car submerged.
That's awful. That really is awful.
It's really horrific.
They would just be so helpless, just, strapped in their car seats and obviously not even... Well, they're stuck in the car and
there's nothing they can do, and they've got nobody to help them. They can't. Their mum was the one who done it. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
No, I'll start crying if I...
Yeah, that's awful.
So Susan was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. The defence's theory was that she drove to the edge of the lake to kill herself and her 2 sons, but her body willed itself out of the car. That was her defence.
Wow, that is a really great defence.
And the prosecution believed that she murdered her sons because she wanted to be with Tom Finlay.
Well, I'm thinking more on the side of that. I mean,
of course, that's why I wrote that whole letter
out.
That was the letter that drove her to it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he didn't want to be with her because he didn't want kids and he didn't want the responsibility of her kids.
So she thought, well, I want to be with him, so if I get rid of my kids... But then...
He's going to be like...
This is a classic case, though. I mean, obviously, that I know we're, sort of sane people here thinking of it rationally, and I'm like, getting rid of your kids is not going to allow you to be with this guy, because 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to get caught doing that, so you're going to spend your life in jail. So, you're not going to get to be with this guy regardless, and then you've...
And even if you don't get caught... That wasn't the only reason that he didn't want to be with you.
Well, exactly.
You were sleeping with other people. You were sleeping with your mum's husband, like, that wasn't the only reason.
No.
He didn't want you, and, like, do you not think he's going to be like, where's your kids?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, what's happened to them?
Yeah, and, like, he would be suspicious, surely. Like, because one minute, I'm telling you I don't want to have kids, and then all of a sudden your kids have disappeared and you want to be with me.
I would have felt a bit of guilt through that. Do you know what I mean? Because I know obviously it's not his fault, but the fact that
well, if it is, that's awful.
Because, I mean, like, I just naturally, would you feel a bit of guilt from that?
Yeah, probably. And, I mean, we were laughing at his letter because it was a really bad letter, but, you know, he has nothing to feel guilty about.
I mean, he's got nothing. I mean,
he did the right thing.
Yeah.
He did what he
Of course, I mean,
wanted.
I'm not saying that he should, but I just wondered if naturally, you know, because he would have been thinking, you know, I've written that letter, I've said that, was she that obsessed with me that she wanted to be with me, and she's obviously killed her kids, like, because I've said that, you know, I didn't want kids, and that's just awful.
So she was found guilty, and the prosecution was in favour of sentencing her to death, but the jury voted against it. So in 1995, she was sentenced to life in prison, and she is due for parole in November 2024.
Oh, really?
So she's due for parole this year.
I actually was not expecting her to be eligible for parole, but...
That's what, 20 years she's been. So I mean, she's only eligible for parole.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean say she's going to get out.
No,
But
the thing is, I agree. Well, I'm not really a fan of the death sentence anyway, but
no, I do glad
think
she didn't get that.
She shouldn't. Not that the death sentence is kind of instantly right enough, because, you know, these people on death row are like.
She could have still been on death row.
Yeah, exactly. But I just feel like that's not. You know, she should have been made to suffer for the rest of her life, knowing that that's what she'd done to her poor boys that were so innocent and
all for nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
All for nothing. She's killed her children, and she's spent 20 years in prison.
Yeah, exactly. So you didn't get what you wanted. You didn't get to be with the man that you apparently wanted to be with, and you sacrificed your kids for that.
Awful, isn't it? What kind of person does that?
Exactly, no way. I mean, don't get it wrong. I mean, I think, you know, she's obviously had a traumatic life in her childhood and stuff like that. So that's
no excuse, though.
It's no excuse, but, you know, these things obviously have affected her, and that's led her, well, probably, you know, had an input in how she's ended up in the way, you know, her life has ended up. But
there's plenty of other fish in the sea, though. If a guy that you like doesn't want to have kids, then move on and find somebody who does want to.
Exactly.
Or, you know, they don't even have to. Just somebody who appreciates the fact that you've got
stop
children.
Being so fucking selfish. Like, relationships are not the be all and end all. Like, your kids are the most important things, or should be the most important thing in your life. So, if a man's not willing to take that on, or, you know, accept that as part of you,
then he's not for you.
He's not for you. Do you know what I mean? I say there probably is people out there that would happily take that responsibility on. And
millions of people out there.
I mean, they're, you know, like, why not just, or why not just be devoted to your kids for a while instead of being so desperately seeking a relationship that clearly she's not got a good record of. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, you know, it's just she's trying to look for love or whatever she's trying to look for, but she's sleeping around, she's sleeping with married men, you know, she's obviously needs to just, well, she should have just went, no, do you know what, I'm going to concentrate on my kids for a few years and then maybe find, you know, a relationship down the line. But no, I think she was, to be honest,
wonder but if it had something to do with the way she was going about it as well, though. I mean, like, was she expecting him, for instance, or any man that she was going to be with, was she expecting him to be a father to her children? Because her children already had a father.
That's exactly, because obviously...
And you can still have a relationship. You don't even need to really... I mean, if it's going to be long term, then then they would, you know, eventually the other man would meet the children, but he doesn't have to be parenting. I can't say that word. Parenting them.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like I say, I mean,
they've got a dad.
Their dad was very much in their life and co-parenting, as you said. So, you know, it's not like that person was expected to take them on as a full-time responsibility, because they would have obviously been having time with their dad as well, so there would have been time away. So.
And that's when she could have been having time with the man. But then again, if the man doesn't want anybody that's got kids, then
and you know, and I said his reasons were fine for not wanting the relationship. But
perfectly entitled.
Exactly. So I just think that's horrific, and
that's an absolutely horrendous case.
I don't know how she could live with herself doing that. I mean, that's awful. That's like one of the worst things you could ever do, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you to everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.